When was the moment you realized that your best friend wasn't your best friend? When my girlfriend left me, my best friend at the time said, "It's cool, man, I fucked her. You don't want trash like that in your life." He was right. This one's pretty wholesome. I'd have to say it's when he married his wife. I moved away for college and he stayed in state. He was still dating the woman who would later become his wife. We stayed in contact and everything, but distance is very hard for both of us. So staying in contact meant like a phone call every 4 months or so. I still think of him as my brother, and I was the best man at his wedding. And during the course of the wedding and reception, and especially the video by drone they took of the proposal, I realized he had made a new best friend. And now he was marrying her. They'd been together for a little over a year now. I realized he had made a new best friend, and now he was marrying her. Thank you so much for this lovely thought. I am going to be best man at my best friend's wedding next year, and I'm going to use this in my speech. When she told me my husband and I would make hideous babies because red-headed babies are the ugliest thing she has ever seen, she also locked me out of our hotel 4 hours from home with no way home at 3 AM that same day after an argument over her saying my husband kills people for a living. He's a chemist who works on developing chemotherapy. That was the last time I'd spoken to her, 4 years ago. Such a jealous woman. He develops chemotherapy but she thinks that means he kills people. What the fuck? She sounds super ignorant. Edit. Can everyone stop replying with duh? Technically it kills cancer but it also kills you. Yeah, I know. It still doesn't mean people who develop chemo are killers, or that the death of the patient is the goal of the treatment. Well, you know how pharmaceutical companies are actually creating diseases and cancerous. She was definitely lacking some brain cells. Telling his brother after I had called to talk for a bit like we always did, "I told you to say I'm not home if Putis Panzer here called," was upset, but it also clued me in to not waste time on that person anymore. Just told him not to worry and that I would talk to him later. Never did. Just left it at that. That's a very mature reaction. You can be proud of that one. And sorry for the shitty behavior of that guy. When he didn't invite me to his birthday party, I went over to drop off a present, thinking he wasn't having a party, hadn't mentioned anything at school, and found him with his better friends. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Doubled my karma. Also, don't be too mean please. It was 4th grade and he's not a terrible person. Something like this happened to me. I live far from where most of my friends live, not that far. 45 minutes by car. So 3 weeks before my birthday I asked a friend if I could come over my birthday weekend so we could have some pizza and drinks with other friends since I never see anyone. I would have paid for pizza and provided some alcohol. They said it was okay. I checked with their roommates, other mutual friends, and they said it sounded fun. Week off. Everyone ghosts me. Nothing happens that weekend. Instead I went out for drinks with my true best friend and our SOS. Check Snapchat that evening. They're throwing a party for someone else. Another mutual friend. After this I just consider them my boyfriend's friends, even though we were all friends through all of high school and college. Fuck me. Jesus. That makes me so thankful for my best friend. We met in 1999 I think, just before 4th grade. We lived in the same apartment so we spent about 100% of after school time together. Over 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. 4 years we went to the same schools but always had separate classes or lunches or recess. Because of those differences our friend circles and school didn't overlap much at various points. I went to her 12th birthday party I think, so 7th grade. As soon as I got there I recognized the kids she hung out with as the popular kids. I knew them as well as they knew me, so by reputation or face mostly. They weren't mean about it but didn't know how to hide their surprised confusion that I was there. Immediate hey Monartican and wait, how do you know each other? My BF didn't miss a beat. Arms around me in a big hug and loudly stating Monartican is my best friend. We may have never spent time together at school, but we practically lived at each other's houses. I would help her with her chores so she could play outside sooner. She would help me walk my dog when I was grounded so we could spend time together. My mom thought she was a good influence and would relax grounding if I was with my BF and not my other JD type friends. I met her 20 years ago. She was the maid of honor at my wedding a couple years ago. Still the best friend I have ever had. When he posted wedding photos on Facebook, I didn't know he was dating anyone. Mine is similar-ish to this. My best friend told me when he proposed, talked to me about his wedding and that I was invited. We talked all about how it was gonna be on Halloween and people could dress spooky, etc. Then as the date neared and I never got a wedding invitation, I asked where he and his lady were registered so I could give them a gift. That's when it came out that they decided the wedding should be family only for financial reasons. But then the night of the wedding I saw other people from high school upload photos of his wedding. They were all there. I waited a few days and then called him out. He was all, they are people who don't like you and it would have caused issues. These were people I hadn't seen in 7-ish years at that point and moved far past giving a fuck if they like me or not. And I would hope that they would never cause issues with me at someone's fucking wedding. It eventually turned out that it was really a deflection for the fact his now wife just doesn't like me. She feels threatened by me and made him cut off any friendship at all with me. So that was all lovely. What the fuck? That doesn't make sense. How can she feel threatened? That your bond with him would get in the way? I'm a woman. That's really just the core of it. And he used to like me, but that was way back in high school. He was my best friend from age 14 till she made us stop being best friends basically, around when they got married at like age 25. They met when we were all like 23, so I had already been his best friend for 9 years with me having no interest in him and being in a long-term relationship of my own. But just our closeness makes her fear we will have sex. Personally, I told him that this type of behavior is already a red flag. But obviously he went through with the marriage and abided by her rule of cutting me out of his life. Like, does she actually trust him if she can't let him have female friends? Shit's super lame. I'm a woman. My mom always warned me of this and it ended up happening over and over. I had a few girl best friends but also 2 very close guy friends. Actually, the 3 of us did everything together 4 years high school through college, then even after college 24-25 age comes around they get serious girlfriends and their serious girlfriends want me gone. They are going to choose their girlfriends 10 out of 10 times. One of the friends gets married and he invites everyone but me. Even invited mutual friends that we would make fun of together. I was very upset but that is life. Woman here. Similar thing happened to me. Friend of 10 plus years. He started getting distant with this new girlfriend. His wedding got fixed pretty quickly. I did get invited to the wedding and went. But I was completely ignored and even spoken to rudely. Even the common friends, all guys, spoke curtly and ignored me. His mom has a few drinks too many and confessed to me that the chick is a psycho and she wishes he had chosen better. I left in less than an hour. He cut me out completely after the wedding. Pretty much the boat I'm in. I knew she was seeing someone, but oh goddamn. They're already planning the wedding and she has her dress. And the bridesmaid's dress is all picked out. She said she sent out invites already too. Guess who hasn't been told about any of this? T. When mutual friends say why weren't you in any wedding photos and you say who got married and they say your best buddy and you laugh it off and say oh we're not close anymore. Even though you talked to him a few weeks ago. It's humiliating. But then he runs into serious legal problems, ends up on the front page of the local paper, gets sent to jail for 6 months, eventually gets divorced and then tries to refriend you on Facebook. The universe has a way of balancing things out. He was best man at my wedding. We had not much contact for a couple of years, but I still considered him my best friend. I heard about his wedding well after the fact. Guess we're not best friends anymore. I have a group of friends from college. We did our student teaching together and we were close. A few years later, I invited them to my wedding and most of them came and had a good time. At this point, almost all of them are engaged or married. Guess how many weddings I've been invited to? 0. It fucking hurts. My best friend was going to be my best man at my wedding. A week before the wedding he called me and said a friend of his had called him and invited him to go fishing the day after my wedding. And that they were driving up the evening of my wedding. He told me he could probably make it through the ceremony but would have to leave right after. No time for pictures or the reception. I told him not to worry about the wedding and to go fishing. I had my brother be my best man instead. Never talked much to him after that. At the end of the day the right person was the best man. I don't even really have any friends. But if someone asked me to be in their wedding, that would literally trump pretty much anything else. Saving serious illness or death of me or a family member. I was in my brother's wedding and moved to the other side of the US a few months before it. They told me that I could skip the wedding shower and bachelorette party, that was a different weekend. But I penny pinched and went anyways, and that was for my future self, not even my brother. Totally with you there. I was living at the other end of the world when I got invited to my friend's wedding as best man. You better believe I'd travel overseas for a mate. Don't get this fishing thing. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've read on this thread. He would rather go fishing than be you best man? I'm glad he's not a part of your life anymore. He didn't want to be the best man. He used the I'd rather be fishing ploy to get out of it and it worked. Something like this happened to me, but reversed. I was his best man. But once we started working real jobs post-college, it was impossible to meet up. I kept putting in effort to hang out. He didn't. So I stopped trying. When my wedding rolled around I didn't reach back because it had been years since we last talked. That's unfortunate. I had a best friend through middle and high school. We lived in the city together after we graduated and eventually split apart. Still in the same city, but different jobs, crowds, etc. She eventually got married and not only invited me to her wedding but her bridal shower too. I knew her friends, but was never friends with them. I ended up spending most of the time with her mother, her mother's girlfriend and the mother-in-law. I was really touched though. After so many years not talking, and for her to still think of me to invite me to her shower was very thoughtful. Just because you haven't spoken in a long time doesn't diminish your friendship, that was. Also, getting in with the mother-in-law got me a room in the big cabin at the wedding. No tent sleeping for me. Our conversations were getting shorter and less intriguing. One day, I received great news and wanted to share it to my best friend. I then realized that they deleted and blocked me on Facebook. I can partially relate. Had a best friend for 10 years, but some years ago I moved abroad. Still kept in touch by Xbox and text, but it was mainly me initiating it all. Went to visit the US last year. My wife and I drove 10 hours to see him and he sat and played Destiny the whole time we were there, hardly saying a thing. We left after one night, and that was kinda it. I mean, we still do talk over text now and again, but it's never about anything more than video game and tech news. We used to have deep conversations until 5 AM. I don't know what happened really, but I couldn't do much more to maintain the friendship than I already have. Sometimes you grow as an adult through life experiences and sometimes you don't go anywhere and stagnate. I have had friends like this who just want to talk about high school 20 years ago because they haven't done a damn thing since. Cold. Harsh. I think this one wins. They never explicitly did something wrong. Just detached themselves. I'm always scared this would happen to me. When they would talk and talk about themselves but never ask about me. This can be a tricky one. Especially if you're an introvert. It can seem like a full relationship because you learn so much about them. But later you finally realize they don't know a thing about you because they never ask or have to go when you start talking about yourself. Sucks to realize it. I had a friend who also kept talking about herself, and once, when I was wanting to tell her something, she actually looked at me and said, "I'm not interested in your story at all and I don't want to listen to it." I was just dazzled, said okay, got up and left. Never spoke to her again. Friendship goes both ways. I never fully realized I share this problem with almost every relationship I have. Going through this right now in my mid-30s. It occurred to me that he is my closest friend of 10 years and probably doesn't even know my sister's name. Edit. Wow, it hurt to type that. When she invited me out to dinner as a Christmas gift, and then when the check was dropped, told me she actually couldn't treat BC. She had impulse bought her shitty boyfriend a plane ticket when she was drunk the evening before and therefore didn't have the $sign, among other things. But this was the moment when I was real like, wow, my friendship means nothing to her. When I got an internship at my dream job and she started to pull away more and more until 2 months went by and I realized she ignored most of my texts and Snapchats. After the internship I tried to contact her a few times thinking it was just a product of her being busy with graduation, me being in another state working crazy hours, but a mutual friend stepped in and told me she didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And X200B. I considered her family. She decided I was very replaceable. It hurt a lot more considering we both used to bond over the fact that our childhoods were filled with best friends dumping us for more popular people. While they were driving, everyone decided they wanted to party. No one had money, so they suggested they should call Varvat as he always has money. I was sitting in the back seat. I was like, I'm right here and I'm not in the mood to party tonight. I was totally this guy but with tree. I was always hooked up and knew everyone in town, that's all but pretty much. So whenever a friend of mine had a drought they'd always come to me. But then these two fellas decided I'm always holding and that they could save a fortune just mooching off me. I'd be more than happy to sell a cut of whatever I was holding. But that's never what these two wanted. They just wanted to put their feet up at my place all afternoon and smoke my weed. Once I was at work and they texted me asking if I left my door unlocked for them. What? We live in a fucking shithole. No, my door's not fucking unlocked. Not even when I'm home do I leave the deadbolt open. So naturally the follow-up was if they could get my keys so they can hang out at my place. And asked where I keep my tree in the same message. Texted them a long tangent about how disrespectful they're being and all he could fucking say was chill the fuck out bro, it's not a big deal. Next time they came over I happily packed and lit my bong, and when the guy reached out for me to pass it over I just cocked a brow and took another rip. After I told him he ain't smoking if he can't match, and somehow that makes me the villain. They left early that day and stopped coming over after a couple more attempts at toking my hard-earned bud. I really don't mind buying or sharing. Just get me next time. After I buy a few times, if people aren't covering I'll just stop offering. When he ghosted me after I told him I had a tumor that ended up being cancerous. Do you still have it or are you cured? If you still have it, good luck. I hope you heal. Thank you. Fortunately, it's been over 5 years post-treatment without any sign of recurrence. I had a boyfriend dump me when I had a cancer scare. Turned out not to be cancer, though. I ended up marrying a much better person. So this has happened to someone else too. It sucks, but it seems we are not alone. Congrats on the remission, D. When she told me she doesn't like other girls except me cause she likes to be the prettiest girl in the room. I went out with a coworker for drinks once, and while we were hanging out she said it was nice being the prettiest one at work. That was the last time we hung out. I have a friend similar to this. I genuinely think she enjoys being prettier than me. She's so cripplingly insecure that she enjoys being prettier than me. I hate taking her beauty advice, etc. Also, all of her guy friends have a crush on her it seems, and she always talks about how she's flirted with basically everyone she meets. Corollary is that they're into her. It's kinda tiring putting up with such shallowness lol. But she had a bad childhood and has a good soul underneath all that. Not really the same scale as your toxic ass coworker, but I kinda get it. I had a friend like this and her beauty advice was always to stop wearing black and be more like an Abercrombie girl because that's what guys like. I'm still wearing black and she's married to a guy that was raised upper middle class but pretends to be a hillbilly while she was raised in an Italian family in Pennsylvania and pretends to be a cowboy loving country girl. They deserve each other. I was this person once. Not a woman, but I was ugly most of my life. Then I grew up a little, grew a beard, and took care of myself and people found me attractive. I'd never had that and I loved it so much. I honestly couldn't believe people were into me. I was cute. I must have been very annoying. But it was the first time I'd felt good about myself physically and I kinda fixated on it. I fucking hate girls like that. You can tell who they are because if they think you're pretty, they're incredibly nasty to you from the moment they lay eyes on you. All hell will break loose if you ever literally even look at their boyfriend. I asked a girl like that for an id once at the bar I worked at and she tossed it on the ground in front of me so I'd have to bend over and pick it up in front of her. Another one lied to our boss to try to get me fired. Nasty, nasty people. As well as sad and insecure. Their boyfriends are always running around after them apologizing for their behavior. They don't like other women, but that's okay. Us women don't like them either. If she drops her head on the floor she isn't getting a drink until she bends over and pictures it up herself. That was my attitude too. We stared at each other until my boss came over and picked it up himself lol. I'd have picked it up and after checking it I would have thrown it far away so she had to go fetch it like a dog. Yeah, it's hard to have the proper reaction when unexpectedly confronted to artillery. You get paralyzed by shock somehow and then get defensive. And all the good ideas come to later. This reminds me of my ex-best friend who once said we were such good friends because we were both self-centered. I knew she was but asked her to explain to see where I fit in and told me because I'm an only child. Never got so pissed in my life. I grew up poor as fuck and had to learn to make friends and treat them right and not just get away with shit because they are my siblings or WE. I always hated that only child argument. Mind you, she just thought I was spoiled when my parents did absolutely nothing for me. They had me at 18 and were very distant and rather do drugs. And I bought everything myself from working and got myself through college. While she never got a job until after she dropped out of college. Whole thing still makes me tense up. Pretty sure I'm that friend that makes everyone look, as in pretty, better. I don't really mind as much as I did in high school. It's funny because we perceive people as better looking when they hang out with attractive people. So you're not being compared to the group you with, but judge with them. So really you're paying yourself a compliment by saying you make other people look better. You sly dog. We graduated from high school and she went to college halfway across the world. When she came back to visit, when I tried to hang out with her she was always too busy. I later saw tons of pictures posted on Facebook with her and other girls having fun together. So that's what she was so busy with. Then at one point she told me that those girls had actually invited me to everything but she convinced them I wouldn't be able to go. I would have been able to go. I left her alone after that. Edit. I see a lot of speculation in the comments so I'll try to clear things up. These girls were all people I'd been going to school with since kindergarten or so. We all knew each other. I was on good terms with the other girls. The girl I'd been best friends with since first grade, so I felt loyal to her even though as we got older she got meaner. I've learned better since then. I have no idea why she said that, but when she said it, it was with no malice or shame or anything. Like she was just offhandedly stating a fact. I honestly can't figure out why. Maybe she really did think I was busy and it just came out really wrong. But it seems deliberate when you do that consistently for 2-3 weeks while everyone was back home. My best friend in high school did this. I found out she was telling people I was busy for things and to not bother inviting me. I was actually really lonely and would have loved to be invited. The last straw for me was when she invited me over for her birthday. She said she just wanted to spend the day with me, but then told me I had to leave at 2 o'clock for a family party. I was very close with her family and thought it was weird that I had to leave. Turns out she was having a bunch of people over for an actual birthday party and didn't want me there. To this day don't understand it, but it was very hurtful and I was done with her after that. She was as a total pose. The best thing to happen to you was getting away from her. F those type of jerks. The fact that she did it is bad enough already. The fact that she told you is just flat out insane. The fact she admitted it is just FD up. It's like going to court, pleading guilty, and then also pleading guilty for multiple other crimes. Why? My best friend of high school, someone who I thought would be in my life for a long time, started to hit on a girl that I was talking to. He would lie about me to change her opinion of me, and the best part is he never admitted to a thing. Maybe not that bad, but I felt really betrayed. I found out she was uploading my art to Bad Art blog. I only found out because she sent me 2 paragraphs telling me I was a horrible friend anonymously on Tumblr. Then when I went to her crying over it wondering who it was, she said it was her and then blocked me. I thought I could still fix things, but then I found the Bad Art blog with my art on it, and found out she was talking shit about me to her other friends. I was only 15 and even though it's been years since it, I'm still fucked up by it in some ways. If you don't like someone, don't pretend to like them and make fun of them behind their backs. Just let them know you feel like you can't be friends anymore and distance yourself. Yeah, that will hurt in the short term, but it won't monumentally fuck over someone's entire psyche as being fake will. There's a lot of heinous stuff in this thread, but the bad art blog thing truly seems like the worst to me. I'm sorry you went through that. Yeah, I had that happen too. I would make Lego stop motion videos in middle school, and I found out my close friend and his friend decided to make an account called My Name Sucks and leave comments all over my videos. I knew it was him and this other guy cause they posted a video of them doing some stupid BMX shit on the channel. I was so angry I deleted them all. Which looking back at makes me even sadder than losing the friend because they really were a passion project for me and I really would love to watch them again. Anyone can make BMX videos, but who else can say they made stop motion Lego videos? Can you do some more for old time's sake? Sadly, I do not have my Legos anymore, as I am in college now. Thinking about this is making me want to buy some clay though and make claymations. My best friend used to send me nasty anonymous messages on Tumblr too. Still kinda hurts. Even though I know that she's really just a rotten person, I still feel like I could have been better. I hope that you're able to get past this one day. I'm sure your art is fantastic. When I invited her to hang out with me at the nearby lake for my birthday, she said she would get back to me. She never did. Instead, she posted on her Snapchat story about how much fun she was having with her other friends. I stopped talking to her after that. This is how I lost all of my high school friends. They would constantly tell me they were so busy and they had no time to chill, but would always be on Snapchat having a great time with other, new friends. And it's like you never did anything wrong, they just completely lost interest in you for some reason. That and the people who very rarely text you back, but when you do finally see them they are glued to their phone texting other people the entire time. Yet I hate this feeling. The only good time I had when this happened was when one of my friends straight up told me, hey, so I feel like we're drifting apart in our interests and friend groups and I don't know if we should try to force a friendship. I'm just letting you know that's why we aren't hanging out anymore. Boom, talk about being upfront. That's how you do it. I have lived within 2 hours of him for the last 6 years and he has never come to visit me. Always me visiting him. Last straw, had a huge the 4th of July BBQ and invited him and he declined so he could go to a lake with strangers. Fuck you, Rick. That's fucked up. I am out of touch with my sister, who's lived within an hour's drive of me my whole life and only visited once in 17 years. I've visited her uncountable times. Went to her wedding, her diploma ceremony, her birthdays, played with her kids, random social calls. 6 years ago I moved to the same city, 15 minutes away. I invited her over multiple times, even setting a date 3 times. She just didn't show up without cancelling. I had to get free from work 2 of those days, which wasn't easy. After the 3rd time, when my amazingly social and friendly roommate came in all enthusiastic to meet my sister finally and saw the disappointment on my face, she told me it's just unfair. She was right, bye sis. My mom literally lives down the street. I have to drive past her house every time I go to town. She has not spoken to me for 3 years. She will accept my gifts for the holidays if my daughters drop them off, but will never acknowledge me. I still send the gifts because I will not allow her to change me into a vindictive person. I'm gonna just keep being me. Her loss. You shouldn't send gifts this year and see if she calls to find out if something happened to you or not. When my best friend had marriage troubles, I was there for him. All through his wife's infidelity, the divorce, and the custody battle. I testified on his behalf in court and he got custody of the kids. Fast forward 2 years later, when I find out my wife is cheating on me, he's not really interested in talking to me about it so much, and even acts like he's not home when I stop by for a visit. And no, he wasn't the one my wife was cheating with. He's a good dad and a fun guy to hang around with, but he's just not emotionally available to help other people out much. You know how to be a friend. He knows how to get from others. That's not a friend. You are better off without friends like him. I've been that friend for the past 2 years where I am constantly there emotionally for them. But as soon as I am having a bad day or week and I need someone to lean on, I get radio silence from everyone. It's like I'm expected to always be strong and never have problems, because I'm the mom friend, and man, that fucking hurts. I'm in a dark place right now, but they hardly know because I can't talk about it. When she got s-faced drunk at my her godson's, wedding, trashed a hotel room, called me horrible names and punched me closed fist in the face. She ended up passed out on the grounds of the hotel, came to and was arrested for trespassing because she refused to leave the premises. Days later, via email, blaming me because she didn't realize she was harboring so much animosity towards me. Bye bye. How dare you make me secretly ready to punch you in the face? Is that how this works? Damn, what a bitch. This is the only post that made me wonder what the other side of the story is. What happened that made her lose her mind? When we went out to eat and I offered her to pay, as usual, because she told me that she forgot her purse, she ordered loads of food and ate only half of it. After leaving, her shoelace was loose and she bent over to tie her shoe and a $100 bill was sticking out of her back pocket. She did this for 4 years and I never realized. Gave her another chance without saying a word. 3 days later I found out she was constantly using my Instagram to text my ex-boyfriend to end my current relationship. I think she never got slapped so hard. Was it enough to cook her face? Surprising you gave her a second chance. I would have just stopped being friends right there. Your patience must be immense. She was the person I cared for the most, and the first 5 years of our friendship were pretty normal, but all of a sudden she turned into a person I don't recognize anymore. When he started spreading rumors that I was a fuckboy that was going to shoot up the school despite me never having a girlfriend at that point and am extremely non-violent. When I opened up to her about my postpartum depression and she told me that she didn't have time for depression and it was weak. I was never vulnerable with her, but I was dying inside. I needed someone and she had told me she didn't care. I began shutting her out then. Good on you. Assholes like that don't deserve friends. I hope things are better now for you. When I realized she only wanted to receive support and kindness but never give it. She had a rough home life growing up and I always supported her through everything. I would drop what I was doing when she'd call me in tears to help her. Then I had my own rough patch that left me in a depressive rut. She was always too busy with her hobbies, not even actual work school, to even talk to me when I went seeking support. Would get angry when I sent simple "Are you free this weekend?" texts because it was too needy. This is also when I learned who my real best friend was, because she saw what was happening, told off this so-called friend, and gave me all the support I needed. Edit. OMG, this got way more attention than I thought it would. I'm so sorry to see this is such a common ordeal that people have gone through or going through. I wish everyone the best. We all deserve the support to get us through tough times. Best friends for a couple of years. We were in different classes. I wrote her a message that I'd be on my way to her. When I arrived she forgot to alt-tab the chat window with someone else making fun of me at the worst possible way. At that time she was my only friend. Was tough to have no friends after that for a long time. This might not sound like a lot, but I think that scared me and I'm still struggling making friends. Edit. Holy shit. That wave of responses is just crazy. Thanks for everyone who's reaching out to me. Also, thanks for the silver kind stranger. My best friend was always complaining and making everything about herself. I met my boyfriend and moved cities so we could be together. Only after a while did I realize that I was feeling so relieved to stop catering to her needs. My senior year of high school, when the group of friends had inside jokes about me, they made a game of mentioning these jokes in front of me. When it finally got out I pretty much never talked to them again. After graduation, never seen again. Best friend of 15 years. It all unraveled the night he told my cousin to kill herself. Tried to start a fight with multiple people at my house. And flipped off my mom. Edit. Yes. He was drunk at the time. No. I'm not reaching out to him. Disrespect to my family is an irredeemable offense in my eyes. He's out of my life completely now. Sorry about that. Especially for a 15-year relationship. You are lucky to have one for so long. Was gonna make a throwaway. But F that. Last year, he was in my town and ran into my son at a local store. My son, does my dad know you are in town? Guy, number. He's an asshole. Now, I may be an asshole, but an asshole down a best friend now. When they said that I'm not funny and never have been. They said they only laughed at my jokes out of pity. They then said that no girl would ever like me and that I'm annoying. The thing about girls didn't hurt that bad, but for some reason by them saying I wasn't funny really hurt. This was after 3 years of being best friends. I gave this person way too many chances, when she would only have me come over so she could go to a concert. Because her parents liked me and let us go out. She stopped talking to me for a while but hid me because she was applying for a job and needed clean urine. We stopped talking again. Then she would call me to tell me she needed food and money for her son. And then bought drugs. I've stopped helping her. And she's no longer my best friend, but I listen when she needs to talk and having a hard time. Do the man. That really sucks. I don't hate her, but I've set boundaries. I really hope she gets her life together. After years of giving me a hard time for eloping, making me promise after my first divorce that if I marry again she must be invited, I invited her. She got her mom to babysit her kids, and then went to her ex-boyfriend's house to fuck all weekend. Totally blowing off my wedding. My wedding was extremely small. Besides my daughter, she was my only invited guest. She showed me right there exactly how important I was to her. In our final year of university, after having a nearly identical schedule for our first 3 years, we took different electives to finish up our degree. Since we weren't seeing each other every day, we talked less and less. It's not just on him, I didn't do enough either. But it kinda sucked realizing that our friendship wasn't going to last up to graduation. And obviously afterwards as well. After she told me my sexual assault was my fault, I ended that 5-year friendship right then and there. Good for you. It is not your fault. I hope you are doing okay and have found better friends. But, 2 things you should always remember. 1. That wasn't your fault. 2. Don't ever put up with shitty people like that. Ever. For years, my best friend had asked me every summer to go to this sleepaway summer camp in the Poconos with her, but my mother wouldn't ever let me go. The year she finally broke down and said I could go, My bestie and I spent weeks shopping and planning and talking about it non-stop. It was going to be glorious, the final summer before junior high, after her parents dropped us off. However, this bitch proceeded to flat out ignore me the entire 2 weeks we were there. She wouldn't even have a 2-minute conversation with me to tell me what I'd done. I was beyond miserable. All the other kids had been going there every summer and all knew each other, and here I was, basically alone in another state, pre-internet and cell phones, totally bewildered and upset because my best friend since kindergarten, and the only other person I knew there, wouldn't so much as look at me. I was miserable. When her parents came to pick us up, I didn't say a damn word the whole 2-hour trip home and never spoke to her again. To this day I have no idea why the fuck she acted like that, but I'm still a little pissed off. I must flip this because I was the problem, not him. Fell in love with him. Could not reverse my feelings. Shamed of this. He deserved a better friend. Has moved on. I miss him. And X200B. Edit. Thank you for messaging me. Feels good knowing many of us know this experience. Whole thing gave me whiplash. We were friends for almost a decade before a switch flipped and a flip switched for me, and it did not go back. I waited for months before I told him, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't confused and that my feelings were not going away. I think I even waited for about a year. He was real sound about it. I swear I'm not putting him on top of a pedestal. He handled it all perfectly and treated me very right. He was confused at first, and we tried to be together a few times, on and off I guess, over a couple of years. Never anything official. We were already so close and had been spending most of our time together anyhow. He was ready ages ago to resume being friends, and I tried, but we were tumbling down different fields of life at the time. I think he has a kid now. I believe we live in separate countries. We were very close once and had good times, and I respect him and hope he continues to be well and happy. This broke my heart a little bit. I think I'm possibly wavering on the edge of a similar situation right now, and it's no fun at all. I hope you're doing okay. Sounds tragic. Sometimes you can't help feeling what you feel. Don't know enough details to say, but I wouldn't blame yourself. As someone on the other side of this, where my best friend made a move on me after years of close friendship and then declared they had fallen in love with me and their marriage was in shambles because of their feelings for me. I ended the friendship because ultimately I had to make a decision between my partner and my friend. As much as my best friend meant to me, the partner completes me, so it wasn't a difficult choice. But I'm still angry and sad that I lost a good friend that I'd had for years, more so because I don't have many friends and it greatly reduced my already limited pool. When she called me a slut or etc when her adult brother molested me, we were 12. When all the conversations had to be started by me, when I called him out on it, his excuse was I'm very busy, fuck dude, like the rest of us aren't. A text now and then won't kill you. My best friend and I talked every day until I realized I was the one calling every time, so I stopped initiating. We didn't talk for 6 months. I missed her, so I called and invited her to hang out. We do. It was fun. I made a sly comment suggesting she call me more. Her response? Phones work both ways. Basically, she was willing to maintain a relationship and be friends as long as I did all the reaching out. Nope. I need a friend who thinks about me once in a while too. Not my best friend, but an ex-friend of mine. Your best friend doesn't have depression. She just has those awful thoughts because she watches horror movies. Edit. Holy shit you guys. This blew up. Thanks for the support y'all. Oh, this bullet I want to put through my head? Don't worry about it. It's just for this snuff film I'm making. When we both tried to get in a frat, I didn't make it and he did, which was cool. BC we'd still hang out. That is until for the next month him and a few of his new frat pledges would throw food at me, and on at least 4 occasions I'd be blindsided on campus with them tipping me over. I am in a wheelchair. They wore masks so I had no proof to anyone, but he was pretty big and I recognized his shoes. He'd then try to still hang around me and act like he never did anything. I didn't really figure it out till about the 3rd time when they tipped me over, and that's when I saw his shoes, confirming it. About a year later he randomly texted me saying how sorry he was for what he did and hoped we could be friends again, but by that time I could care less. Turns out he had gotten kicked out of the frat for drug use and now he couch surfs. Dude, what the fuck? Tipping someone out of their chair, taking away a mobility device, is fucked up. If someone tipped me out of my chair I would have a super hard time righting myself, let alone any pain injury from being tipped. That's infuriating. I'm glad you're okay and, hopefully, don't have to deal with that anymore. He was asking for help from my other friends in school for a problem on his computer work. They suggested why not ask me for help since I sat next to him in class, and then replied I'm not asking him, he's fucking stupid, while I was right near him printing stuff out. I was so surprised I just pretended I didn't hear anything and went back to my desk. Didn't speak to him for a while after that. When he fucked my son's mother, who was also my girlfriend at the time, in my home, while I was at work. Edited for clarity. I don't think I've ever actually had one TBH. There always seems to be another friend that they're closer with than me, and I'm like the third wheel. When my ex broke up with me and I was looking for people to talk to, not a call, not a message, not a word about it from him, while other friends were genuinely worried. Nah, instead the guy just starts hanging out with my ex more. Not like I listened to all the shit you had going on and tried to help you through it, but oh well. When I found out she had been lying to everyone else that I was busy or something so I'd never be invited anywhere 4 years straight, she was my only friend. I went to my boss asking why my best friend was promoted instead of me when I had been working longer and had a better work ethic. Boss told me that my friend had told her I wasn't interested in the promotion. My friend and I lived together and had talked about how nice it would be to get the promotion the previous week. When she completely cut off communication. One day we were hanging out. Next day, nothing. I would text, call, no responses. I still don't know what I did wrong. Best friend of 7 years fell in love with my fiancé. When I told him I didn't want to be friends anymore and kicked him out of my life, my fiancé left me for him. I'll be honest, I wanted to kill him and almost did. I'm sorry that happened to you. It seems like your fiancé is part of the problem here. Oh yeah, she totally was, but stupid me didn't see that cause I put her on a pedestal. I hate them both now, but at the time I wanted him dead. Thank you for your condolences. I know it hurts, but it's so much better to find out she's an idiot before the wedding. Ordering me to help her with stuff, and there was once my 2 friends and I ordered drinks. Friend A forgot to get a straw. My best friend, which is friend B, just took my straw and passed to friend A and asked me to go and get another one for myself. I was so heartbroken. Every time she called me I would have to poop. Literally the sound of her voice would make my body want to expel waste. And this was before cell phones, so I had to do the poop dance in the hallway while trying to get off the phone with her. This one is by far the most astounding one in this thread and I'm amazed it's this low down. Incredible. Maybe her voice hit the brown note. But seriously, I've had physical reactions from being around people that ended up being bad for me. Whenever I've talked to some guys that ended up being bad for me, I started coughing a lot despite not having allergies or being sick. As soon as I cut them off, the coughing stopped. I've heard of similar reactions from other people. Sometimes your body knows that you have to cut someone out of your life and has funny ways of telling you. Yeah, I used to get chronic, debilitating migraine several times a week. Hair lows, light and sound sensitivity, nausea, the works. Went to the doctor multiple times. No one could figure out what was causing it. They would get so bad I would hide under a blanket from the light and fight the urge to vomit from pain. Cut someone out of my life after years of abuse and the migraines immediately went away. Haven't had anything more than a light headache in years. Sometimes the physical manifestations of stress can be telling. I've had this happen twice in my life. The first one lacked any defining moment. We had grown up together and been best friends for well over a decade. But after college he moved to another state, so we never saw each other. Still talked every day and played video games together several times a week. But I noticed after a while that I was always the one to initiate conversations and ask for us to play games. So, I just got curious one day how long it would take for him to say hi for once or start a game. After 2 years of not talking with him, I finally removed him from my friends list. In hindsight, I should have talked with him about things and why it hurt my feelings. But early 20s is still basically a kid. I lacked a lot of maturity. Second time was after my divorce. I moved in with my best friend at the time, a man who I called my brother. I was going through a lot, not just the divorce, like having to apply for disability and my mom being terminally ill. Meanwhile, he had recently started taking testosterone and gotten married to a woman who insisted on traditional values and him being the man of the house, which all translated to him being an insensitive asshole who kept calling me lazy and accusing me of mooching off him, despite the fact that I was doing all the housework and had taken the initiative to reorganize both his books and his magic collection for him. He kicked me out after a month. For context, like 5 years before he had been really ill, hospitalized for weeks, and I moved in to take care of him when nobody else would, even giving the bastard sponge baths. I wiped his literal ass for him and he couldn't handle the fact that some days my disabled ass had to skip doing dishes and catch up when I felt better later. And he got my food stamps. I doubt I made his electric and water bills go up that much to get so pissy and accuse me of mooching. This is speculation, but my guess is his new wife wanted you gone and put that idea into his head. I do think she was part of the equation, which is why I mentioned it, but I'm not sure it was specifically directed at me. She and the testosterone both started at about the same time, and afterwards his whole personality changed, became a lot more aggressive and unwilling to compromise or tolerate others. Everything had to be his way. Just in general became an asshole. I know testosterone can increase aggression and anger, but I also think it was her filling his head with ideas that he needed to be the alpha male. As far as I know though, he's the one decided to kick me out. When she told me she didn't want to hang out because my toddler took up too much of my time and I was boring, then she got knocked up and came to me crying about how hard everything is gonna be now that she's single and pregnant. My friend's wife had her best friend tell her she was making a meal out of how hard she was, saying it was having twin babies. She was childless. Years later she has a kid of her own and was always posting on Facebook about how hard it was having a baby. Blocked her shit. Never liked her anyway. She was the only person I had told about being sexually assaulted. When it eventually got out that there were other victims and I went to court, she refused to testify. stayed friends with my abuser, and lied to people and said that I hadn't told her anything. I'm still too chicken to completely cut her off, but fuck that. Are you still friends with this human being? They sound like fucking trash. Something very similar happened to me and it literally destroyed my life and my mind. I had to move out of my hometown because of all stress from it. Mate, you don't need that cunt in your life. Life is too short for toxic people like that. I took her to Vegas for her bachelorette party. I was the maid of honor. Everyone else bailed except for one other bridesmaid, so I drove us there from AZ. She said she didn't care what we did, so I got us hooked up with a table that night to see Lily and Francis, and we spent the day at a pool party beforehand. We took a nap in the Roomba for that night and she apparently got locked out of the room which was in her name, but never called either of us who were sleeping. She was incredibly mad at me and she and the other girl flew home the next morning while I was still asleep and left me to drive home by myself. When I visited my friend of 25 years, best man, etc., he got violently drunk and attempted to strangle me in front of his screaming family while I begged for life and that my daughters would not be orphans, because I didn't want to be grabbed. This happened 14 hours ago. Fun times. When I noticed the pattern of love bombing, showing no regard for my time, and only coming to me when she needed me to do something for her, I started noticing I didn't feel good while around her, and she was constantly trying to change me. I don't blame her, and I feel bad because I know she has a hard time keeping friends, but I feel like it's because she's trying way too hard. When I told her I was moving in with my boyfriend in a different state, she screamed and swore at me, busted into my room at my home, while I was talking to my boyfriend on Discord, so he heard the whole thing, saying he would probably rape and kill me, or just dump me on the street when we would eventually break up. We still live together, and she got over it, but it hasn't been the same since. When after my mom passed, I made the conscious choice to only be happy around her because she let me know on several occasions she didn't like dealing with other people's feelings and I didn't want to burden her, and then a few months later she told me she couldn't be my friend any longer with no explanation while we were living together, and she knew I wasn't able to move out for a few months longer. She instantly stopped speaking to me unless it was a rude comment and wouldn't eat anything I cooked. Cooking was therapeutic for me and I loved doing it for her and her family. Still have no explanation on the why she no longer wanted to be friends after 10 years. But I am marrying her brother in the fall and he's the most amazing thing to have ever happened to me. So there's that. When I was 14, I became great friends with a girl in my class called Kirsty. We spent all our time together. I stayed at her house every weekend. Of course I assumed we were best friends. One day I asked her to do something and she didn't want to. Can't remember what. So I said, "Please, best friend." To which she replied, "You aren't my best friend. Rhiannon is my best friend, ouch." When he called me over and like 2 hours and he gets a phone call, says he's going with his friends to Stockholm and asked me to leave. When she came into my place of work, with a bunch of her friends, and when I tried to sit with her and tell her something that was going on with me, she basically shut me down and said something like, "They're trying to have a good time, I don't want negative energy," and then after that, only talked to me when she wanted me to like Instagram pictures, or support her boosness. When I got sexually assaulted at one of her parties and she didn't believe me and thought I was making it up. My friend completely ghosted me after I had my daughter. She never called or texted me. She got angry if I invited her over. Later she told me she was upset with me because I wasn't paying enough attention to her. Good riddance. It was in 8th grade when he said I don't even really like that guy after being asked why he hung out with me. It was in Xbox Live party chat and he didn't realize I was in the party. Left the chat after he said that and never spoke with him again. Best friend for 15 years stomped my head in while I was drunk and left me for dead till someone called an ambulance. Best friend since birth. Our families were friends. The two of us and my brother and her brother spent together every weekend for roughly 20 years. Then she changed. She became super entitled and holier than thou. Final straw was when 4 years ago she wanted to go to paintball for her birthday and invited both me and my little brother. My little bro had an autoimmune disease and could not participate. I told her that I would not go either cause I didn't want my teenage brother to feel different. She flipped the fuck out. Told me I was an asshole and it was her birthday, and she didn't care that much about my brother. I got really mad. I wrote her a long message and I didn't hold back. She never answered. Cut contact there and then. 6 months after that, my brother almost died. She never came to the hospital or even called. Not me, not him, not my mother. Been no contact for 4 years and never looked back. Edit. I'm not sure if it's clear that she cut contact with me, not the other way around. When my other best friend informed me and my now wife that my now wife was just a petty fuck and she wanted to drop Molly and then hook up with me while I was in a long-term relationship. We had been best friends for 10 years. Haven't spoken to her since. Chick was crazy. When he showed up to a party with his new girlfriend, who was my ex that I had broken up with less than 2 weeks prior, he knew that I was really hurt about the breakup, as it was a situation where I was really in love with her. But I broke up with her because I kept catching her lying to me and I was about 99% certain she was cheating on me also. When they showed up, I was so pissed off at them that I didn't know what to do. So I excused myself and left the party. The next day, I confronted him about the situation over the phone, and he told me I was the one being the asshole because he thought I was going to be a cool bro and I would be excited for him since he was getting his dick wet. He then told me that if they didn't work out, we could just go back to being best friends again. As if it worked that way. They ended up breaking up a few weeks later when she started pulling the same shit on him that she had pulled with me. When you realize they don't give a shit about you drifting away, you break your back holding up a conversation, asking them questions about anything they mention in the hopes that it picks up momentum, but it's always a one-sided thing. I deserved better, but it would break my heart if I let go so easily. Sounds petty, but we had a fallout over seeing Frozen in the cinema. We both loved Tangled, so wanted to see the Frozen together, but she couldn't afford the ticket. So my sister and I paid for her. Come the day, she messages me saying her mum grounded her so she can't come out. I called her home phone to convince her mum to let her come out and got the response, so she's at her grandparents right now. I hope you enjoy the film. I cried to my mum about it, and my mum helped me understand that my friendship was just toxic. I had been stood up or lied to too many times. Couldn't refund the ticket, but it became my mum's favorite film, so it was worth it. Should have realized she wasn't my best friend sooner when she told me she was grounded on my birthday so couldn't come, but instead went out to have sex with her boyfriend. Edit. We were both 17 at the time, for those asking. I had a group that I considered my best friends in middle and high school. I'd been incredibly troubled and depressed, but we all got along and were competitive in academics. They were the people I loved to spend time with. I transferred to a new high school but still saw them all the time. One day we went to dinner, and plans were to go spend the night at my place after. At dinner, I casually came out. Suddenly, no one was able to make it to my place for the night. That's pretty shallow of them. If they can't accept you for who you are, then fuck 'em. There's plenty of awesome people in the world who will unconditionally love you. Not my best, but one I was growing closer to. She left me a voicemail but didn't hang up properly. It was like, "Hey, Waffle House needs Wi-Fi. I'm with Melissa and we're seeing what you're up to. Call us when you get off work." By rustling sounds, she's probably not even at work. She does this lame ass shit where she disappears for days on end. I don't even know why I called her. She's so fucking annoying, and it'd be better to spend the day with just you and X200B. Okay, then do. I listened to it 3 times just to make bloody certain I heard her 100% right. It was crystal clear. When she asked me days later what was up with me, I told her about the voicemail. She proceeded to deny it outright. I never said anything like that. Then jumped down my throat claiming she was talking about someone else. What? That didn't even make sense. Whatever. And people wonder why I disappear. When he stopped hanging out with me to chill with losers who gave him free drugs. When she tried to tell me that she understood how I felt about my mum's death the week before, because her parents were getting divorced and she would only be able to see her dad every other weekend. And then she made it all about how she wasn't sure if she could cope with the depression about to wash over her when he started moving out, etc. I had to comfort her, not trying to minimize the impact of the divorce on her. I'm sure it hurt a lot, but JFC, you can still see your dad. You can talk to him on the phone when you miss him. My mother is dead. The two are not the same thing. When him and his son, basically my nephew, died in a house fire back in 2017. I miss you, brother. 3 of us started hanging out when we were 13 and 14. Lived together in our first incredible small, bunk beds, studio apartment. I was his boss and got him hired at the company he is still at when my boss didn't want me to hire him. That isn't a reflection on him. He was a great employee. My boss at the time was an idiot. He was best man at my wedding years later. And as soon as I got married, all ties were cut. I have no idea why. He wouldn't respond to anything from me. I saw him one more time a couple years later at my other friend's wedding. He barely spoke to me and won't reply to anything since then. More than a decade ago. I am still friends with his brother, who came out as gay and was cut off from the entire family. If I had done something, or there was some reason or anything, it would be great to know. But he just ended everything for no reason. Years of friendship, not only with me, but with my parents too. He lived at our house on the weekend every weekend for years. He cut off the 3rd member of our trio also, again. For no reason. Fuck you, Mark. When they choked me at a football game because I didn't let them cover my mouth with duct tape. When he just stopped hanging out with me or talking to me, and hung out with all the cool kids instead. Haven't had a friend since. He was my only friend. We can be friends. I'm so hyped for April. Endgame and Game of Thrones. Most hype month in entertainment history, for me. How about you? You into any shows or anything? I've watched every episode of Supernatural twice, and I love The Office. Never watched Game of Thrones though. Man, I can't recommend it enough. Love The Office too. I'm a bit behind though on Supernatural. Stopped watching around the time the angels were expelled from heaven and Metatron is doing his thing. Around that time. Thinking about getting back into it now that it's gonna be ending. Is it worth it for the last 5 seasons or so? When I stopped dismissing all of his insults as jokes and finally got up the courage to report him to the counselor, he called me mean and said I betrayed him. Although he was an asshole. This was in 4th grade BTW. brother-in-law became my stalker and I was just always prepared for him to murder me. I tried venting and she interrupted with, "I went on a date last night and it was probably the best date of my life." No apology. Nothing but worry I would be upset because his name was the same as a shitty ex of mine. I had an exceptionally close friend in high school. We talk on the phone several times a week and share our innermost thoughts and feelings, but we mostly joked around and talked about music and our classes. Lots of people thought we were dating or should date, but we both maintained it was platonic. The closer I got to her, the further I drifted from my other friends. Not to mention my family, who she didn't really care for. It obviously added some baggage to any romantic relationship I found myself in. When we went off to separate colleges, we had a lot of time apart. I ended up going to therapy for my depression, and my therapist pointed out that although the friendship had its merits, it wasn't exactly healthy. The thought had honestly never crossed my mind before. I thought she was exaggerating, but kept in the back of my mind. On the drive back from a strange day trip to see her, it just hit me how toxic this friendship really was. This person was incredibly nice to me, but she subtly led me to believe that it was us against the world, that I couldn't really trust anyone like her. I wouldn't jump to calling it abuse, but it was definitely fucky. I ended up ghosting her the next week. At first I felt guilty about it, but ultimately I think it was the right move for both of us. Friend since grade 7. She was going through mental health issues and began talking to me about them. I'm no expert and had literally learned a few hours before that adults are allowed to call the kids' help phone and won't be turned away. I told her this, not to dissuade her from talking to me about it. I made this clear. But she instantly shut me out of her life because she thought that's what friends were for. When he told my other friends fuck him, he doesn't have time to hang out, I tried to hang out with them as much as possible, but that's what happens when you have work, school, and a GF. My best friend and I stayed close despite attending different high schools, but we drifted apart once we began attending different colleges. I pretty much instantly found a group that I clicked with, including a girl who has been my best friend for 17 years now. When I'd hang out with my old best friend on school breaks, I realized that we didn't have much in common anymore, and she spent a lot of time complaining. I visited her for a long weekend during our sophomore year, excited because she lived in a cool town. But all we did was hang out with some people she barely knew. She was afraid, didn't understand how to bus to the cool parts of the city, and neither of us had a car, so we didn't go anywhere fun. I realized that we'd really grown apart that weekend. Our friendship didn't end then, but I didn't make much of an effort after that. She's a nice person and I wish her all the best, though. She used to say some really racist shit. I mean appallingly racist. It was incredibly ironic considering she was one of the girls that grew up listening to a lot of rap and some R&B. I think she had some serious issues. Neither her mom or her dad seemed all that racist, but she sure as hell was. My family, me, wife and 3 kids at the time, was in a rough spot, living with a friend a few years ago. I told that friend that if anyone had a problem with my wife, that they had a problem with me. Word got around. My best friend messaged me on FB asking if what I said was true. Instant reply of yes. Haven't heard from him since. A lot of people had difficulty realizing my wife was disabled. Chronic pain condition called fibromyalgia. And many friends and family alike thought she was just lazy, didn't want to work and was using me. Most of my family have come around and know this ain't a fucking joke. Fuck all the rest of them. We've been married 14 years soon. Have a great relationship. 4 kids, and despite all the horrific pain and suffering she goes through, we're doing okay for ourselves now. I don't have much time for friendships these days, so I socialize online for the most part. Edit. Lots of replies being downvoted for no reason. My best friend has fibromyalgia. Sending solidarity. It's a bastard condition and one even some physicians still haven't accepted exists UK here. When he shit on the new carpet right after being outside for a half hour. When she abandoned me after 10 plus years the day after I survived a suicide attempt, in the middle of backing out on an offer on a house, losing my job, and my now ex-husband all leaving me within the same week. If I remember correctly, we'll be 3 years here in about a month or 2. Hannah, I know you'll never see this, but I really hope the universe is smiling upon you. I still love you and think about you most days. I'm listening to Me versus Maradona versus Elvis currently. It was already on when I saw this and thought of you. I'm a lot better and healthier now. I know to stay out of your life. Hope you have a good day today. Summary of a 1-hour phone call. And X200B. Me. Sobbing. I have seen my doctor. She diagnosed a burnout. I need to rest and relax for at least the next few months. I'm sorry, I can't work on our project anymore. It's too much for me. And X200B. Her answer, how dare you? I thought you weren't that weak. We're all tired. You should man up. You're selfish for abandoning us like that. If you quit now, don't even bother contacting me again. And X200B. And X200B. I don't know about you guys, but if my best friend called me sobbing about her health, my first reaction wouldn't be that one. Wait, what? Your doctor diagnosed a burnout, and told you not to work? I'm so confused by this post. When she asked me out and I realized I was utterly, completely and hopelessly in love with her 18 years and 3 kids later, and I love her even more. When he became a failure to launch type person and lost what little motivation he had in life. He was always undermotivated when we were younger, but after failing out of college by simply not going to class, getting fired from the job I helped him get, twice from the same job, and sitting on unemployment for nearly 2 years, I just can't be around that kind of person. Guy still thinks the best years of his life were junior year of high school. He's 35 now and lives with his mother. Last time I saw him all he'd talk about were things I couldn't remember from literally half a lifetime ago for me. Dude, I'm really sorry, but that awesome time we played that one round of Mario Party 3 inches kinda doesn't stand out. Trips down memory lane are nice, but when they are held as the golden age, it's just not interesting. Couple that with no motivation to better himself, lose the other person he carries every day in weight. Dude's at least 450 pounds 200 kilograms. Working 25 hours a week is not a busy life when your mom takes care of everything else. Oh. Also, he tries to pick up 19-year-old girls all the time. And that's been his type ever since he passed that age bracket. Edit. Many of you are mentioning depression. And I initially chalked a lot of this up to that. But there's a willful aspect to him not wanting to drive or succeed. He's cool with being the 35-year-old virgin, smoking weed, working part-time and then living 2 decades ago over and over. I ran into a friend I went to high school with. We reconnected and started hanging out. Like your friend, she was still stuck in the high school days. She still wore the same style clothes we did in high school, and all she ever wanted to do was sit around and play old school video games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. It was bizarre. By the way, we are in our 50s. My best friend lied to me when we were in years 1-4, 5-8 years old, and told me she was secretly a unicorn. I believed her, and OMG, I was so upset that she lied to me. I didn't talk to her for ages. I was never gonna be friends or talk with her again. We made up like an hour later. LMAO. Kid logic. Seems a reasonable thing to ask if someone directly said you did it. I wouldn't accuse my friend, but I'd certainly follow up by asking if it's true.